Hi, everyone. My name is Doak. I'm a senior account executive here at Deel, and I'm really excited to chat with you on how we're going to partner together to help streamline your processes in working with your independent contractors globally. So, what is Deel? We help companies like yourselves hire, manage, and pay your international workforce all across the world, whether you're looking to hire independent contractors in a compliant manner or hire full time employees through our employer of record services. So, how does it work? You can hire contractors just about anywhere in the world using our localized compliant contracts. Once these contracts are created, you can pay your entire team with one click mass payment, and we'll distribute your funds regardless of where your teams are at. And your contractors will have the flexibility to choose to withdraw their funds in over a dozen withdrawal methods and over 120 currencies, including cryptocurrency. On top of just streamlining the payroll process, we help your company perform at its best. So, touching on compliance again, we have a network of over 200 plus legal partners across the globe. You can find them all on our website, who have helped us create localized compliant contract agreements for you to hire in over 150 countries. These partners are also going in once a quarter to audit these agreements to make sure we're staying abreast of any local changes in labor laws. We also automate wherever possible. So, gone are the days where your contractors have to build out a PDF and send you an invoice every single month, where you manually have to log into 4 different payment platforms to pay them. We'll automate every aspect of the invoice cycle, from invoice generation to approvals to payment, all in one simple form where you can pay all your teams in a couple clicks of a button. A single place to manage your entire team. Whether you're only using us for contractors or a mix of contractors and employees, you can manage all international employees on Deel with the same login. You don't need to log into multiple platforms to do so. On top of that, we know that these workers are important members of your team, even though they might be independent contractors. So we've built a suite of tools and perks to keep your team as happy and engaged as possible as they do their best work for you. With that said, I'll pass it over to the onboarding team to give you an overview of the platform.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this webinar. My name is Osiris Childs. I am one of the onboarding managers for our North America region. Specifically, nonetheless, this webinar is useful for both those in our North America as well as EMEA region. The purpose of today's call is to walk you through the platform, as well as walk you through the contract creation process, walk you through some important onboarding steps that you will need to take when onboarding your contractors to the Deel platform. Next, I'm going to walk you through the Create a Contract tab, and this is going to be your most important tool that you are going to use when bringing your independent contractors onto the Deel platform. So with independent contractors, we have 3 contract types that you can create. You can create either a fixed rate contract, a pay-as-you-go contract, and a milestone contract. Now, we will get into creating those contracts in just a second here, but to give you a brief overview of the difference between those contracts, a fixed rate contract is a contract in which your contractors are paid a certain amount on a designated pay cadence. That means, for example, $500 per month, per week, semi-monthly, every other week on a set cadence like that. Pay-as-you-go contracts are where your contracts are maybe submitted or are maybe paid based on hour, time, or work submitted. A pay-as-you-go contract can be $8.50 per hour or per task. Milestone contracts are contracts where your contractors are paid based on a milestone completed. So for example, if you're hiring a social media marketer, their milestone may be 5 social media blogs. For every 5 social media blogs that they write, they'll earn $500, for example. That's a milestone. For milestone contracts, milestones can vary by amount. So one milestone can be $500 and another milestone can be $300. You have the flexibility to decide the amount with which you want to pay out those milestones when you create the contract. Now, to walk you through this process for each of the 3 different types of contracts that you see here for your independent contractors, I'm going to show you each of those and what it looks like to create a contract. So first, we'll start with our fixed rate contracts. You'll want to select fixed rate. Just within 5 pages here and some brief information, we can get your contractor's contract created. When you come to the first page, it's going to ask you to fill out some initial information. This is where you will want to select the entity that you have set up. So in your case, the entity that you all have created when coming to the Deel platform, you'll select that entity at the top here. If you have multiple, then you could select which entity that particular contractor should go to. If you have different entities in different countries, you can split it up that way. However, you all are splitting up your entity and workforce for your own reporting and legal purposes. Next, you'll want to select the contract name. So in this case, we will just type Jane Doe. Next, you want to include the contractor's tax residence. This is where the contractor will be working from. So if they are working from Canada, you will want to put Canada as their tax residence. In this case, Canada requires a province, so we'll just say British Columbia. The purpose of collecting the contractor's tax residence is because Deel provides your contractors with tax forms at the end of each year. And so in order to be legally compliant for their specific country requirements when it comes to taxes, we do need to ensure that the contractor's tax residence is listed. Next, you will want to input your contractor's job title. So this can be a sales development rep, a 3D artist, academic advisor. We do have suggestions, but you can also type in your own. Let's say for the purpose of this call, they are going to be a 3D artist. Next, in this field, you have the option to assign a seniority level. They can be a junior, mid, senior, lead, principal, staff, director. We have many options here you can choose from. If there is no associated seniority level, you can put not applicable for all of your contractors. For this demo, we're going to make them a junior 3D artist. Last two items for this first page is you're going to want to include the scope of work. The scope of work defines the roles and responsibilities that your contractors will have while performing work for you on your behalf. Deel does have predefined scopes of work that you can use if you would like, but you can also enter in your own. So in this case, let's say we want to use a scope of work for a designer. You can select designer. Here, it will populate a predefined scope of work for that position. You will see the duties and responsibilities all outlined within that field. You do have complete flexibility to adjust the scope of work to your liking. So let's say you like Deel's scope of work, all but this last bullet point here. You can remove that sentence from your scope of work, and now you have edited it. If you do not like Deel's predefined scope of work, you can simply remove what we have entered, and you can type in your own directly into this field. And you would just want to, and if I could spell, responsibility. You want to list all of those responsibilities in that field there. You can be as descriptive or non-descriptive as you would like, but that's where you would want to put their responsibilities. Lastly, you would want to select the contractor's start date. We do have the ability on our contractor model to backdate start dates. So for example, today is the 3rd. If you want their contract to start and be calculated for pay on the 1st, you can do so as well. You can also start a contract in the future. Let's say we want our contractor to start next Monday. We'll select May 9th. Once all this information is populated, you'll select Next. Under this page, this is where you will define the payment rate. Now, this is where I would like to call out a very important feature of the Deel platform when it comes to independent contractors. With independent contractors, you have the ability to pay your contractors in either USD or their local currency. So in this case, for the contractor in this example, they are in Canada and British Columbia. You can pay them in Canadian dollars, or you can pay your contractor in USD. It's fully up to how you want to pay your contractors. A lot of clients will make one standard USD payment to all of their contractors, no matter how geographically dispersed they are, and allow their contractors to withdraw in whatever fund they would like into their local bank account, or maybe even into a Revolut or other e-wallets. The full flexibility is there. You can pay half of your contractor population in USD, the other half in another local currency, but this is where you would decide how you want to pay them under this screen. Let's say we're going to pay them in Canadian dollars. You would then set the amount that you want paid. Now, remember, this is a fixed rate contract that we are creating. So the amount, the payment rate that you enter here will be associated with the payment frequency that you will decide here. A fixed rate monthly contract based on this information that we have entered in here means that your contractor will be paid at a rate of 1,500 Canadian dollars per month. Similarly, if you change to semi-monthly, weekly, or even bi-weekly, the payment rate that you enter here is the pay that they will receive on the cadence selected. So keep that in mind when you create your contracts. If you meant $1,500 monthly, but accidentally put in weekly, our system will read this as $1,500 weekly. The cadence that you enter will be the cadence that our contract will be based on. And you can always amend the contract at a later date, but just look at those details closely when creating the contract. Next, you have the ability to adjust your invoice settings. Now, with invoice settings, you would want to decide when you want your invoice cycle to end and the payment due date. You can also decide whether or not you would like to pay ahead of the weekend if a payment date were to ever fall on a weekend. Now, with the invoice cycle end date, that means when you want the invoice to run for your designated pay cadence. For example, in the contractor that we have here, this individual was paid on a monthly payment frequency. With the invoice cycle ending on the last day of the month, as you see in this example here, their invoice will reflect pay from the first of the month through the very last day of the month. You have the ability to customize this. So if you want your invoices to only run from the 1st to the 27th of the month, or maybe even the 1st to the 28th of the month, you can designate that at the time of contract creation. For simplicity, we will have the invoice run for the entire month. Next, you can set when you want the payment to be due. So sometimes clients will want their payment to be due the same day that they make a payment and the invoice cycle ends. You may want to give yourself a buffer and allow your payroll team to have some time to review invoices and make the payment. If that's the case, you can set your payment day to be 5 days later, 7 days later, or maybe even 15. You have complete control over the amount of days that you want to give yourself to make the payment. You can also customize it. So if you want 17 days instead of 15, you would choose custom, enter in the amount of days. For the purpose of this example, we're going to keep it as same day. As I mentioned, you do have the ability to toggle on the feature that is pay ahead of the weekend. If you toggle it off, if a payment ever falls on a Saturday or a Sunday, your contractor will be able to withdraw their funds that following Monday. Now, if you toggle this on, and a payment falls on a weekend, they'll be able to access their funds on that previous Friday. Lastly, any of the invoice settings that you have adjusted here, you can save as default settings. So for all of your contracts that you're going to create, if you know that you always want the invoice cycle to end on the last day of the month, you want the payment to be due on the same day, and you would also like to pay ahead of the weekend, you would simply toggle on save as the default settings. And every time that you come to create a contract, these invoice settings will be here. Now, at any point, if you do save them as default settings, you can simply customize your invoice settings every single time you create a contract. But saving them as a default will save you those couple of steps here when creating the contract. Once all this information is populated, you will select next. Here, this is where you will define the first payment date. So in this case, with a monthly fixed rate contract, the first payment date will run on the end of the month in the example that we have. With first payments, you do have the ability to set whether or not your contractor should receive their full amount, so based on the fixed rate that you set in the previous screen, or a prorated amount. If you would like them to receive a prorated amount for the first payment, you will simply want to enter in that amount here. So let's say their fixed rate is 1,500 Canadian dollars for a month, but they should only be paid $1,300 because of a previous payment, or maybe even a deduction that happened prior to bringing them on the platform. You would enter in that prorated amount here and select next. Now, keep in mind, this prorated amount will only be assigned to the first payment. After that first payment has gone through, every other payment that your contractor receives will be based on the full fixed amount that you put in the previous payment detail screen. If you want the full amount, you would select full amount and select next. Last couple of screens here when creating the contract. If your contractor has a set termination date, you can add a termination date here. You would choose when you want your contract to be terminated. Let's say it's only for a 3-month contract. We'll set the termination date to be August 3rd. On August 3rd, that contract will end. If your contract is indefinite, you can simply leave this field untouched. Next, you can set the amount of notice period required for either party, you or your contractor, to terminate the contract. you could change the days of notice and customize the number of days that you want for each contractor. You can have a 0-day notice if you would like you or your contractor to be able to terminate your contract same day, 10 days notice, or even 30. You also have the flexibility to change that notice period for different contractors. So depending on the role or maybe even the country, different contractors can have different notice periods. If you don't want one, if you don't need a notice period, then just leave that untouched as well. Last couple of features on this screen, you do have the option to offer stock options to your contractors. If that is the case, you would want to select the currency, the option value, as well as the number of stock options that are granted. You can add any additional documents to your contract. This can be additional schedules, maybe an internal employee handbook or contractor handbook document. This can be specific documents outlining expenses and what may be eligible to submit an expense for, or maybe even commission structures. You would attach that document directly here when you are creating a contract. Lastly, you can add any special clauses to the contract to outline a special scenario. For example, if you want your contractors to receive certain days off or certain holidays, you would include those special clauses there, or maybe clauses surrounding work hours or even milestones met. You would select next. Here, this is where you will use either Deel's compliant standard contract, or you can use your own contract. If you use Deel's standard contract, you can require that your contractors submit their compliance documents in addition to using Deel's standard contract. If you use your own contract, you will need to upload that contract in a PDF format to the platform here. Now, keep in mind, if you do use your own internal contract, it does need to be signed by both you and the contractor prior to uploading it to the platform. Let's say we want to use Deel's standard contract. We will just keep that as an option so you can see some features there. Lastly, on this page, you do have the ability to upgrade your contractors to Deel Premium. This covers the potential risk of misclassification up to $25,000. It covers the legal cost of coverage, penalties from tax authorities, as well as coverage for third-party liabilities. If you toggle this on, this additional fee will be attached to your contract for that individual contractor. If everything looks good to you and you filled in all the information under these tabs that you see here, you'll want to select Create Contract. Once the contract has been created, you have the ability to review and sign the contract. Now, a couple key features that I want to point out under the Deel standard contract is that you do have the ability to customize the contract. So if you review everything that's under the contract, the services, payment, all the sections and all the individual parts of the contract, and maybe you like everything but one of the sections, or maybe you would like to reword one of the sections. With independent contractors, you do have the full ability to customize those contracts. If you do not want to customize it and you just want to go with the standard Deel contract for Canada here, as in the example of this contractor, you will agree and sign the contract and invite your contractor. Now, once the contract has been signed, you will have the ability to invite your contractor. Now, when you invite your contractor, you want to simply input their email, and you can customize the message that is sent to your contractor. Once you put in the email, we're going to put in a test email here. Once you send the invitation, your contractor will receive an invitation to Deel, letting them know that they've been invited to the platform, that they do have a contract that is available to sign. They will be able to create their accounts, sign their contract, complete their onboarding, and be able to be paid by you all. Now, once you have created your contracts, whether you're creating them manually or using the mass onboarding template that we just went over, you will see your contractors waiting for, you will see your contract show as a waiting for a contractor signature state. Now, when we click into your contract, you will see that it shows that you have invited your contractor, and the email that you have invited them with will show there. Now, we will provide an email template to all clients at this stage of your onboarding process that you can share with your contractors. This email template will provide them with background on Deel, give them a brief explanation as to what the platform is and how they can get started with setting up their Deel account. Once all of your contracts have been created, whether you're waiting for your contracts to be signed or if everyone has fully signed their contracts, the next important thing that you will want to do is set up a payment method. And this will be important for paying your contractors. To set up a payment method, you will simply navigate to the Team Settings tab here. Under this section here, you can add a payment method. You will simply select the blue button here and choose a payment method that you would like to use. You can use ACH payment method, credit or debit card, SEPA for Euro payments, BACS, as well as PAD in Canada. You can also use Brex, bank transfer, and you can also fund your account, Mercury, Wise, or even Coinbase. We do recommend ACH, connecting an ACH account, as it is the quickest and the most simplest way to pay your contractors. It results in less delays and ensuring that your contractors can get paid quicker. When first setting up your ACH account, you would want to manually verify your account either by logging in via Plaid or verifying it manually. If you log in via Plaid, you'll use that method. You will select continue. Here, it will ask you it'll connect you directly to Plaid and you can log in using those credentials. Now, for the sake of this demo, we won't log in, but this will give you a step-by-step process on how to verify your account. If you're going to verify it manually, you will select continue. This will ask you for your account and routing number. You will receive 2 small deposits to your bank account, and then we'll just need to verify the amounts that you received in order to verify your account. Whether you use Plaid or manual verification, once your account is set up and you save that payment method, you will now see that as a saved payment method. So for the example of this demo, you can see that there are 3 different types of bank accounts saved. There's an ACH account here. You do have the option to save multiple payment methods. So depending on how geographically dispersed your team is, or even just how you all internally want to make your payments, if you want to make a payment to a certain set of contractors from one bank account and another set of contractors to another bank account, you can set up multiple payment methods there. If you have multiple payment methods set up, you can mark a payment as preferred. And additionally, you can toggle on this feature that is automatically pay my team. If you toggle on this feature, that means that once your invoices are generated and your contractors have pay that needs to be paid out, we will make that payment 5 days before the due date. You have the ability to toggle on or off automatically pay my team at any point throughout which you are using the platform. Next, with your contractors, the next important feature that you will see is making invoice adjustments. And this means adding expenses, maybe bonuses, commissions, submitting work, things like that. To make an adjustment to an invoice from the client view, you would simply want to click into the contract that you want to make an adjustment for. So let's say we're going to click into this fixed rate contract here. Once you select the contract that you want to make an adjustment for, under the contract overview page, you will see this adjust button. Selecting adjust gives you the opportunity to add a few different types of adjustments. You can add a bonus pay if you would like, maybe even commission. You can also deduct pay, add an expense, other, overtime, maybe VAT. For example, if you wanted to add an expense or even a bonus, you would select that adjustment there. Select the amount that you want to add. So let's say this contractor needs an additional $200 bonus. You can add the date that which that bonus is connected to. Let's just say for today, and the reason for that bonus. Maybe excellent service with a client, or whatever the case may be. You can add a reason there. It can be as descriptive or non-descriptive that you would like. You also have the ability to toggle on adjustments as reoccurring. So let's say for the next 4 months, you want this contractor, in addition to their fixed rate that is set, to receive an additional $200 bonus. You would simply toggle on recurring, and that means that every invoice cycle, they would receive an additional amount of $200 on top of the fixed rate that you set. If it's just going to be a one-off payment, then you will simply leave that off. For any adjustments, you do have the ability to attach a file. So for example, if you're going to add an expense, you can attach a receipt for whatever that expense may be for. Once you select Adjust Amount, you will see that option, that adjustment show up under the Pending tab. And that is because approvals are toggled on for this contract. Once the adjustment has been approved, or you can deny it, but let's say we want to approve this $200 bonus, you would see it under the Invoiced Approved section. Now, for this invoice, you'll see that in addition to their fixed rate monthly payment, they're also receiving this additional $200 bonus for excellent service with the client. At any point with any adjustment that you make, you can remove it. So maybe that was supposed to be $20 and not $200, or maybe even $2,000 instead of $200. You can simply remove that adjustment and re-add the correct amount. Now, once all of your contractors have been completely onboarded, that means that their contracts have been signed by both you all and them. They've completed all the onboarding steps necessary and set up their banking details. Once an invoice cycle has ended, you will see any payments due for any payments that need to be made to your contractors. Now, under the Home tab, you will see those payments due, but any invoices that are generated for your contractor will also be generated under the Invoices and Receipts tab. So you can see here for these contractors, they have fixed rate payments or pay-as-you-go or even milestone invoices that are overdue. That means that this amount needs to be paid out to this contractor. On the Home tab, when submitting your first payment, you will see a payment due in this top grid of your home page. You will simply select Pay. Here, this is where you can select who you want to pay. Now, we do recommend making one mass payment to all of your contractors if possible. The reason why we recommend that is because there is a $5 processing fee if you're using ACH, for example, per payment transaction. So the fewer payments that you can make, the less transaction fees you'll come across. If you want to mass pay all of your contractors, just simply select all the contracts that you want to pay and select Continue. Upon this screen, you will see all the contracts that are pending a pay, the amount, as well as potentially what you're paying them out for. So in this first contract, this is a pay-as-you-go contract. You can see that this amount correlates to 30 hours and 35 minutes of work. In this case, this is a monthly contract. Those details will be listed below for a brief overview. Whether you're going to pay all of your contractors or maybe you want to pay just one person at a time, you can do so as well. We're going to mass pay in this example, select Continue. Once you select Continue, this is where you will choose your payment method that you want to use. Now, if you have a saved payment method, in the example of setting up an ACH account, your saved payment method will show up here. In this case, we're going to use an ACH account and select Continue. Now, I do want to call out one other feature to the right here. You will see, again, a list of all the payments that you are making and the amounts, as well as the associated currencies. You will also see any additional fees associated with making those payments. Once you select Continue, you will confirm your payment using the banking details that you have set up. Again, one last time, before selecting Confirm Payment, you will see a drop down of all the payments that you're making for all of your contractors, as well as any associated fees. Once you confirm the payment, your invoice will show as payment processing under the Invoices and Receipts tab. Let's see if there are any here in this example. So for example, in orange here, you see payments processing. Once those payments have processed, your contractors will see an available balance to withdraw. Now, to show you what that looks like, I'm going to switch to the contractor view. Once you have made a successful payment to your contractors, when they log into their account, they will see a balance that is able to withdraw. So let's say one of those payments that you made was to Mauricio and you paid him $5,500 USD. When he logs into his account, he has the ability to withdraw those funds. He can withdraw those funds into those accounts that he has set up during his onboarding process. Last thing that I want to bring your attention to on this initial onboarding checklist here are any items that may potentially need to be approved. If there are items that need to be approved, such as expenses or even work submitted, they will show under your home screen. Anyone listed as an administrator under that specific team will receive a notification when there are items that need to be approved. To review those items, you'll simply select Review. It will show you a drop-down of what those items are. So in this case, this contractor submitted an expense for 200 Swedish krona. You can either deny or confirm your selections. Let's say you want to approve all. If you have a lot of expenses to approve, you would select all of them or manually select which ones you want to approve, select Approve. Once an item has been approved, that means that it will be added to that contractor's invoice. All expenses, all items that need to be approved will not be added to a contractor's invoice until the designated amount of approvals have been met. And that is pretty much it for our initial onboarding and the key items that you need to go through when first starting your onboarding, creating your contracts, and your initial checklist. Next, I'm going to pass it off to my teammate, Camille, who is an onboarding manager in our EMEA region.
Hi, my name is Camille. I'm from the onboarding team, and today I'm going to show you a few key settings on your platform. So first of all, I'd like to take you to your organization settings. To access those, go to the left-hand side menu and click on Organization Settings. Here, you can customize your company's name. You can also edit the organization managers, right? So to make sure we know who are the main owners of the platform. You can see your teams and access those from there. On the second tab, Entities, you can add any entity of your company that you'd like to be linking to any contract to the platform. Simply click on Add Entity and fill in the information. In the billing section, you'll be able to download any invoice that's been edited when you've done a payment on the platform. So you can download the PDF version over here. If you see that a payment is processing and it is in orange, it means we have registered that you've made a payment, but we haven't quite received your funds. When it reads paid in green, it means we have received your money. Payment methods give you an overview of all the payment methods that you've saved on the platform. For instance, over here, we have 3 direct debits in USD, pounds, and euros saved on the platform. From this section, you can also decide which team gets to access each of the payment methods. So you can play around with the various teams that you have on the platform. You can also decide to grant individual access or remove access to certain team members. I'm now going to show you the Compliance Documents section. On the left-hand side menu, go to Compliance Documents. Over here, you'll see an overview of all the contractors you've onboarded onto the platform. If you have required them to upload their compliance documents when they sign up to Deel, then you will see in this section where they're at in the process. So you'll see the name of your contractor over here, as well as how they have set themselves up on the platform. You will see if they've completed their KYC check with us. And over here, you can see what they've done in terms of providing the compliance document you requested. So for instance, all of my team have completed the process, as I can see. And if I go to the documents section and I hover over here, I can see that those 3 documents, for instance, were what was required in the location for Felicia. You can see also the list of compliance document if you go to the terminate section over here for those contracts that have ended. Okay. Let me now take you to the team settings. So you can edit settings on a team level. To access a given team, go to the 3 dots over here, click on it, and then you can access the team that you want. You will see appear over here, Team Settings. The team settings will allow you to save a payment method for a given team, add managers, edit approvals on this team, and edit invoice availability. Let me first review how to add managers. Adding managers to the team means you're adding team members who are going to help you manage the client-facing side of the platform. So to add a team member, click on Add. You'll just need to give us the first name, last name, and email address of your colleague. And you can now decide the role that you want to give them. We have 3 different types of access level on the platform. You can either add a person as an admin. An admin is somebody who can create teams, add people to those teams, create contracts, make payments. A controller is somebody who can do all of that except create teams and add people to that team, add managers to that team, I mean. And a support specialist is somebody who can create contracts, but cannot make any payment, create teams, or add any manager. Both an admin and a controller can be an approver and an adjuster. An approver is somebody who can approve items submitted on the platform by your contractors. So let's say your contractors go on their platform, submit an expense, submit a request for a commission or a bonus. It will go through an approval level on the platform if you have enabled that functionality, which we'll see in a second. And you can decide that this person that you're adding here is going to be a controller. So let's say I want to add John. I'm just providing with the email address. And then I want John to be a controller because he's going to be approving items. I also want him to be an adjuster, which means he can adjust what the payments that is going to go out. Okay. Click on send invite, and your colleague should receive an email prompting them to sign up to Deel, provide a couple of pieces of information, and then they will be added to your team. Now that we have gone over how to add a manager, I'd like to go over approvals of item in a little bit more details. As I mentioned, you can enable approval of items on the platform. To do so, simply enable this over here. You will see that you're given a couple of choices. You can either decide that you want to approve only additional items, so it would be anything but the salaries that you've agreed on. For instance, if you have a fixed contract, you wouldn't see the salary to approve, but you'd see anything else. So commission, expenses, anything that is requested on the platform by your contractors would be subject to approval. Or you can decide to approve absolutely everything, which is also absolutely fine, in which case even the salaries would be subject to approval to be bumped up to the payment queue. And I want to go over the invoice generation customization. So as a standard, you will see that the invoice will be available on your platform 5 days before due date. It means that if you've decided that you want to pay your team on the last day of the month, every month, you'll see the invoice ready for you to settle it 5 days before, okay? But you can play around with that. If you wanted to have the invoice ready for payment earlier than that, for instance, if you have payment terms that you need to abide by, like for instance, if you need to pay twice monthly and you cannot, just wait to have the invoice 5 days before, you can just decide to have it earlier than that. Invoice issue date has an impact on your contractors in the sense that they need to make sure that they have submitted any expense or any work done before the invoice is available, so we can pay it out at the next payment date. Don't worry too much if they haven't been able to add something crucial by that deadline. You can always do an off-cycle payment with contractors, which we can go over at a later stage. I'm now going to show you the apps and integrations that we can offer. So left-hand side menu, go to apps and perks. And you see that we have a wide range of integration that you can use for accounting, human resources, and expense management. Also have user management softwares. We offer Slack integrations as well through Roots. And we have a wide range of partners that offer perks according to the location where you're based. You can take a little look and see if there's any discounts that might interest you. So our contracts for contractors are drawn up in a way that protects you against misclassification claims, but you can take up an additional security through Deel. You can sign up to Deel Premium, which is $50 per contract per month. With Deel Premium, should there be any misclassification claim made by one of your contractor against you when using one of our contracts, we would protect you and cover your cost up to $25,000, any legal cost, penalties, or third-party indemnity costs. We also offer another service that is Deel Shield. Deel Shield will allow Deel to be a party of the contract with the contractor as opposed to the standard setup, which is you are still a party of the contract with your contractor. In this instance, Deel is contracting directly with your team, but you can still manage your team and use the platform as usual.
Okay, this next section will walk through the contractor onboarding side of things and what they see from their perspective after they have been invited to the platform. Once a contract has been created and you all have signed the contract, invited your contractor to the platform, they will receive a link to their email, and this is the email that you all will send upon invitation, bringing them to this screen that we see here. This will prompt them to create their Deel contractor account to allow them to be paid. If they do not set up their account and verify their account, which we will later walk through, they will not be able to withdraw funds through the Deel platform. With the email that you invite your contractors with, they will be able to select their contractor and select next. Here, this will prompt them to fill in all of their personal information to create their Deel account. I'm going to go ahead and put in some test information just to point out one last important feature of the process. Once your contractor has filled in all their personal information, they will be prompted to select whether they are an entity or an individual. The reason why we ask this is because some countries will require contractors to register as entities in order to set up their billing, while others do not. So it's very imperative that your contractors set up their account based on how they have set up their contractor business in the country of residence through which they themselves as a contractor or their contractor business is being taxed. Once they have made the proper election and have selected next, they'll be able to continue on with creating their account. And when they create their account, they'll be prompted to verify their account through Verif to ensure that the funds that they will receive are going to the right person. After your contractor has created their account, they will pop up to the home screen that we see here. Now, this is a demo account, so there is some test information present, but the general display is still the same. When your contractor logs into their account, they will see any contracts that they have pending for signature. This will be a contract that you have sent it to your contractor. When they're ready to sign their contract, they will click into their specific contracts. So let's use this example here. When they click into this screen, they will be able to review all the contract details under their specific contracts. So their start date, what type of contract they have, their job title, payment details, when they should expect their first payment, their scope of work, anything relevant to country compliance needed, as well as any other specifics entered in or information regarding the end of their contract. Once they have reviewed all those details, they'll be able to review and sign their contract. Once they have signed their contract, they will see the active contract under their contracts view. Once their contract has been signed, they will be able to make adjustments, submit work, and most importantly, withdraw funds once a contractor payment has been made. That is the general overview process of the contractor onboarding. When you all submit an invitation to your contractor, they will be prompted to set up their Deel account, log into their account, sign their contract, and they're fully onboarded. Now, to end off this training, we do have some resources for your contractors that you can share with them. To make their lives easier, we would recommend them bookmarking all these resources, but there are resources such as our support hub and support via live chat that they can access 24/7. Of the resources that you can share with your contractors, we do have the contractor onboarding guide. Now, the contractor onboarding guide shown here will give them all the information regarding to their onboarding. It'll give them information as to how to get started, so creating their account, getting verified, setting up bank payments, as well as any additional resources that they need. In addition to the onboarding guide, your contractors will also have access to Deel Support Hub. This is where they can come to ask any sort of questions such as how to withdraw a bank payment or how to set up an account, or maybe even how do I get verified? Any information that your contractors will need to help them with their onboarding process, or even just with questions after they've been fully onboarded, they can navigate here. Along with the support hub here, your contractors will have 24/7 access to the support chat that is located at the bottom right of their contractor account. That is all for our training today. Now we're going to open up the rest of the call for any sort of questions that you all may have. Thank you.